Now then, it has 5 bedrooms, and estate agents would certainly describe it as having a fair bit of potential, I imagine. But Michael Carroll might struggle to sell the mansion he bought after winning the National Lottery.
Video footage shows he and his mates have wrecked the property near Swaffham in Norfolk. After reports he spent virtually all his winnings, he could now lose hundreds of thousands more. Malcolm Robertson has this report.
In a rural setting close to Swaffham, it could be a nice property. Indeed, it was when Michael Carroll bought the Grange after winning almost £10 million on the lottery in 2002. But look what he's turned it into. It's up for sale for £250,000. But this film of the property on the internet site YouTube might not necessarily attract potential buyers. Over the years, Michael Carroll has turned the grounds into a racetrack, a place of fun for him and his mates, but his neighbours were far from amused. They regularly complained about the noise and his antisocial behaviour. Last week, in an interview with Anglia TV, Michael Carroll said he played up to his bad boy reputation.
They paint me as an image, I've got to be that image, haven't I? As like playing a part in a film. Mikey the thug, Mikey the bad boy, I played up to it, I played up to the press, what can I say? He wouldn't like their face in the paper all the time. You're playing a part. They're calling me a lottery lout, they're calling me a thug, I'll be it. Just for the cameras.
Clearly the house near Swaffham is a bit of a mess, both inside and out. The speculation that Michael Carroll has spent most of his winnings, although reports he's about to sign on the dole appear to be wide of the mark. He bought the Grange for £325,000. He then spent £200,000 on an extension and swimming pool and a further £100,000 on replacing the bathrooms and kitchen. 7 years later, it's on the market for £250,000. Even if he got that, it still amounts to a loss of around £375,000. I understand there have already been 2 offers on the house, but whoever buys it will need to spend a fair amount to make it habitable again. Malcolm Robertson, Anglia News.
And rural parts of the region may have been given £10 million to encourage people to take part in sport. Sport England has donated the cash to fund projects in Norfolk and Suffolk.
Well, next tonight, the mother who is petitioning the Prime Minister after her baby son was allowed to die by doctors because he was born so prematurely.
Sarah Capewell from Great Yarmouth believes her son Jaden would have survived if he'd been treated, but he was born just 2 days before the widely used cut-off, when doctors believe it may be worth resuscitating premature babies.
Sarah is now planning a march on Downing Street and will hand over a petition with more than 18,000 signatures. Alpa Patel has been speaking to her. A warning, her report does contain some distressing images.
It's been a year and 4 months since the death of her baby son, but 23-year-old Sarah Capewell thinks about him every day. She finds it hard to come to his graveside in Galston because it reminds her of his all-too-brief life. Jaden Andrew Christopher Capewell was born when his mum was just over 5 months pregnant. Sarah says doctors at the James Paget Hospital refused to treat him because he was too premature. He lived for just 2 hours.
I screamed, I shouted, I begged, I pleaded really politely. I tried everything, tried every single approach, and nothing worked.
He lived 2 hours. What was it like in those 2 hours?
I was numb for most of it, to be quite honest. I had tears pouring down my face.
Sarah had miscarried 6 times before. Due to complications in her pregnancy with Jaden, she was told she would miscarry and he would probably be stillborn. But Jaden was born alive. Sarah claims rather than assessing him as an individual case, doctors stuck to a policy that very premature babies do not receive intensive care. According to national guidelines, babies born at less than 22 weeks should not be resuscitated as it's not considered to be in the best interests of the child. Baby Jaden was 21 weeks and 5 days. That's just 2 days short of the recommendations. The survival rates of babies born below 22 weeks are very low. In 2005, 212 such babies were born. Only 3 survived. But the recent case of baby Amelia Taylor, born in Florida after just 21 weeks, has added fuel to the debate. She's believed to be the most premature baby to survive and was born only slightly bigger than a ballpoint pen. Amelia Taylor is not believed to have any disability. Sarah says baby Amelia's story and her own reinforce the need for a review of the guidelines. As for the argument that keeping babies as young as Jayden alive is not in their best interests, she has this to say.
The baby's in pain when it's dying as well. I don't think the risk of disability and the cost and all these different things that keep being raised, I don't think they should be the major issues. If you help and that baby survives, you've saved a life. That's what you're trained to do. That is meant to be your job. So having the guidelines reflect that, it'll be a bit more clear for doctors as well as patients and parents. You know, that grey area is causing so many deaths. It's like, you know, now it's time to sort that grey area out.
Alpa Patel reporting there. Well, the James Paget Hospital says they do not comment on individual cases, but do follow the national recommendations.
Well, this issue raises a lot of questions about how medical guidelines are decided and whether doctors should be free to use their discretion. Well, to talk about this, we're now joined in the studio by Dr. Anna Smidle, who lectures in medical ethics at the University of East Anglia. Dr. Smidle, thank you very much indeed for coming in to see us this evening. Let's start on that question of 22 weeks. Do you feel, having seen that report, having seen the case study in America as well, that it's just too inflexible?
I think the whole point of a cut-off point is that it is inflexible. Otherwise, you know, we would just say, let's be flexible about this. I think the need for a cut-off point is that not all of these babies will survive. A very, very small proportion of them will survive. And those that do may go on to have very serious health problems in the future. And from a policy-making perspective, that raises the question, is this the best thing to do with our medical resources, to focus them on every single premature baby that's born? It's terribly heartbreaking, but that's the purpose of that cut-off point, to say these ones, in all probability, will not survive even if we do everything we can for them. Let's focus on the ones that have a higher chance of survival. That's the bald facts, and they're horrible, but there is some justification to them.
I'm sure, but you can imagine, as a parent, seeing your child there, and if there is a chance, no matter how small, surely they should be given that chance. I mean, what are the issues facing doctors?
I think it's very hard for doctors, and I think part of the reason for having a cut-off point is to save doctors from having to make agonising decisions about every single child that's born in their hospital. That's asking too much of doctors. There does need to be some kind of policy on this. I think in the case we've just seen, it looks as though doctors perhaps didn't offer as much care and compassion to the patients who were under their care as they could have done. And what needs to be remembered is a child that's born under 22 weeks can still be made comfortable. It can be looked after. The mother can be looked after. It doesn't have to mean that that we pretend the child doesn't exist.
Do you think the doctors would like a bit more discretion there, Dr. Snidewell?
I think some might do and some might not. I think that this is a very mixed issue for doctors, and it's very hard on them either way, really. If they have a lot of discretion, then some mothers might say, well, a different doctor might have come to a different decision. So, in a sense, I think the cut-off point protects doctors from making those decisions, but that makes things very hard for parents who naturally focus on their own child. To them, that's the most important thing in the world.
It's incredibly difficult, but thank you very much indeed for coming in,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Snyder, to talk about that.